Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and you are going to love what I have to share with you in this very latest Moon Lambo hot jam. And I gotta tell you, there has never been a moment in history where basically all of the reputable analysts that I follow on a regular basis agree that XRP is going to go absolutely berserk before this is over. And what does that mean specifically? I mean, for most analysts, it means double-digit price action, and you're going to see in this video, even today, convictions never higher, despite the fact that we've been trending sideways. That's normal, even in bull markets. We've been trending sideways for months and months now. But that's after a gigantic pop. You know, after a huge move like that, it makes all, you would expect that there would be some sort of consolidation before continuing to the upside. But wait till I show you what some analysts have to say, including one that says there's just a gigantic freaking bull flag. I mean, we're talking about price action getting closer to the $20 price range before this thing ends. And today, XRP price has had a bit of a move to the upside, though it seems to be stabilizing in recent hours, just kind of moving sideways since then. And so the question is, in the short term, even if all those analysts are correct, and I buy into the narrative, absolutely hook, line, and sinker, I'm in. I fully believe that we're going to have a massive parabolic pop for XRP before this thing's over. But even if that's right, and what happens in the short term, depends on who you ask, but it's kind of like flip a coin. I do want to share a couple comments from a couple analysts warning that before we go way higher in the very short term, we could go a little bit lower. And I've been warning of that consistently. There's a possibility of that. I keep seeing that from reputable analysts out there. But this is not something that would scare them. It's not something that should be shaking out any rational individual. It's just something that happens in markets. And then we continue to the upside. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice. And you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, as I record this video, it is 10:32 p.m. Central Time. It is Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. XRP is $2.25. So here's the last 24 hours, as low as $2.19, as high as $2.28. So once we saw that pop, community noticing, getting a little excited, hoping it continues. At least to this point, it hasn't. But with the environment that we're in, despite warnings from some analysts that we could go lower first, even they, as you'll see as we go through this video, even they acknowledge we don't have to go lower. We absolutely, from any moment from here forward, like we literally could just, the lows could already be in, and we just continue to the upside here. That's the type of world we live in here. Here's a post from chart analyst Tech Dev. And this is something I wish more people knew. This so perfectly illustrates a historic norm of critical importance. You have to be aware of this. This chart on your screen here, it's the crypto total market cap excluding Bitcoin. So we got the altcoins on here, right? And he wrote, liquidity is expanding. Altcoins expand after liquidity. And so this is a message that I will keep drilling into everyone's head who is willing to listen to me here. And so you can see what he's highlighting. You can see the altcoins at the bottom here. You can see liquidity here where I'm moving my mouse. And as he wrote here with this green dot in looks like the beginning part of 2020, liquidity expansion begins. That is M2 global liquidity. You can see if you've got one decent eyeball, you can see how it just started ticking up at a faster pace than it had been going for the years prior. See that? Okay. And then what happened? Well, you can see right here where he put this arrow, altcoin expansion begins. And that makes logical sense. As liquidity increases, people and businesses have more money. And so what's going to happen? They're going to invest increasingly in risk on assets, unless they're short-term tumult and chaos, like with tariffs and macro narratives that scare people. That I understand that. But still, there is a correlation even now. I'm not saying there's not. I'm just saying in the short term, you can look at that and it can make you feel like it's the end of the world. But what happens is, again, liquidity increases, and then the risk on assets follow. The stock market and crypto, it just follows. That's the historical norm. And you can see it happen last cycle. And we're at this point right now where liquidity, the expansion, absolutely, it's already begun. You can see that. Liquidity expansion begins, as he cited here, in 2024. And he's noting that, as he wrote, altcoin expansion on deck. That's the way he phrased it. It lags behind. Because as As money becomes increasingly liquid, people in business have more funds. Give them a little bit of time; they'll figure out what they're going to do with it. They're not just going to sit on. They're going to put it somewhere. Where does it go? Well, a lot of it goes into risk on assets, again, stocks and crypto, including XRP. That's what's next, folks. That is what's next. More and more people are becoming aware of this. No single metric is the end-all be-all, but this is a crucial metric. This is a highly consequential one to be aware of. And it's doing what we would want and hope it to do in the cycle. Historically, this is normal. It's coming. And so then you can even look, and I'm going to talk most of the video specifically about XRP, but I'm just telling you, keep this in mind, and then look at how everything is so perfectly lining up with for XRP as I go through this video. There's so much confluence. This is what you want to see. Here's a post from Crypto Wizard. This is an ETH BTC chart, and he wrote, "It's broken. It finally ends after over 3 years. Ethereum against Bitcoin has been in a downtrend since 2022. The parabolic arc to the downside has now broke on the monthly. The move is just starting." Now, I don't care if you don't like Bitcoin. I don't care if you don't like Ethereum. That's fine. I legitimately don't care. That's totally respectable. Don't mind. I hold Ethereum and ETH. I hold Ethereum, I hold Bitcoin, and I hold XRP and a bunch of other coins. But those three I've been holding since 2017, so I want them all to do well, even though I care about XRP most. But the reason I'm highlighting this is because Ethereum, when it takes off, that historically kicks off alt season. More confluence here. It's another thing that you would want and hope and expect, even just based on historic precedent, to occur. And I also highlighted in recent months, as people are saying, Ethereum's over. Look at that. It's $1,400. It's going down. Blah, 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 blah. No, that type of sentiment pops up as the bottom is forming in markets. There's no rational reason to think that Ethereum, that was the moment. After all these years, this is the moment where it's finally dead. No, the fundamentals didn't in that moment suddenly shift or anything like that. There was nothing from a fundamental perspective that changed. Whether you think the fundamentals are good or bad doesn't matter. They didn't change. The price went down because the price went down because it didn't have anything to do with that. Same thing happened with XRP in 2024. I kept saying, yeah, price goes down. XRP is the worst it's been priced pretty much ever against Bitcoin. I acknowledged that throughout 2024, and I said this is what happens at bottoms. And then XRP rocketed, as it historically did in similar positions. Same for ETH here. So again, this is confluence. So you can look at global liquidity, M2. You can look at ETH here, which kicks off alt seasons. And then there's also XRP specifically. You know, there's this post from chart analyst Kaleo, popular chart analyst. He shared this post with his 702,000 followers on X. He said Ethereum to $10,000 is not a matter of. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Ethereum to $10,000 is a matter of when, not if. And so he plopped down a fractal here, showing his conviction for this. If Ethereum goes to $10,000, which frankly is not really controversial, that's only a twofold increase peak from the peak from the last cycle. If XRP matches that market cap, that's $20 XRP. Now, he's got this going much higher. He thinks that, according to this chart, if he thinks this fractal is going to play out here, you're talking about close to $20,000 ETH. Okay, well, let's play with that for fun. Not that I'm convinced that's going to happen. If it does, okay. If XRP matches that, just doing some quick math here, folks. If Ethereum goes to $20,000, holy freaking hell. You're talking about what, $40 XRP? I mean, look, I won't say it's literally impossible. It's just not my base case. But even someone like me who's more on the conservative side, admittedly, even I will say, okay. And so even if the way that I lean conviction-wise is wrong, because I do happen to be more on the conservative side, I'll be thrilled to be, if my conviction is the way that I'm leaning, and mind you, I like double-digit price action. I will not be the least bit surprised if that hits. But even if I'm off in what I thought was more probable, I'll be happy. Like, that's fine. I'll be cheering on for everybody that gets their life-changing wealth here. Because if you're talking about $40 XRP, and I will give credit to all the analysts who said, yeah, this is going to happen. And I hope they're right. I'm still a bit skeptical it goes that high, but even I will say, okay, if that much money freaking flows in, then of course if that happens, where's Bitcoin going? $250,000, $300,000? Because without Bitcoin getting up to that range, I don't see how you get Ethereum and XRP that high this particular cycle. But if it does, okay. I sure as hell don't think XRP is going to get that high by itself. Like if Bitcoin peaks at, $150,000, and if ETH's peaking at like $7,000 or something like that, I don't see that happening. But if it's all going to go, it's all going to go. And some people have that level of conviction, and we're going to find out if they're right, folks. We're definitely going to find out if they're right. There's this post from the great Matsby. He says, when the lower time frame aligns with the higher time frame, it makes my conviction even stronger for an upward move in the Russell 2000. And the reason I thought I'd briefly highlight this is because as people's appetite for risk on assets increase, you do see breadth open up in the stock market. And that's what this would be. The Russell 2000, it's an index that tracks 2,000 small cap stocks. So if that's going to open up, that's just one more point that you could look to for confluence, be like, okay. And so you would expect then that there would be further moving out of the risk curve into altcoins, frankly. And historically, that's normal. Like that has been what's happened every previous cycle. So I want to keep watching for this, but there's another analyst here who's like, actually, yeah, Russell 2000 probably going to continue to break ultimately. Now take a look at this post from chart analyst Melius. This is an XRP USD chart, and I love this one. XRP with 2017 fractal overlaid. Look at that. And so if you got a small screen, I don't know if you're looking on your phone or a television, but it might be hard to see on a smaller screen. But you can see it. The fractal starts here. It's this dark gray line. And since it's not a bright color, it doesn't really pop. But it goes up. You can see just overlaid it. And then that's what happened in 2017. So if history is to kind of rhyme with itself, yeah, we had the first leg. And then we're getting to that point where if it's going to kind of do about the same thing, it's going to pop sooner than later. And this is normal. And I talked about this in 2024. For each of the last two market cycles, XRP popped, consolidated for about half a year, and then popped again for its final blow off top for the cycle. And I know XRP didn't hit a new all-time high last cycle, but it did have a 6-month gap from its first big burst where it did like, what did it go? 20 cents or so to over 80 cents, something like that at the end of 2020. And then in April of 2021, it went all the way up to $2. So I know he was getting attacked by the United States government, though, so of course price was suppressed. But he says here again, printing Giga Bull flag with EMA 50 serving as support. So that's the blue line, of course, the moving average. And he says, as outlined in my detailed analysis of XRP, worst case is there is only one impulse left. Bearish, right? And he's being sarcastic, obviously. Worst case scenario, there's one more massive impulse. Yup. That would be the historical norm. And again, with everything coming together the way it is, with global liquidity, ETH position the way that we want, look at the charts in XRP, analysts agree, hey, this thing's going to blow. It's a perfect confluence of events. This is why so many people listening right now, if this happens, I'm willing to bet that so many of you are actually going to finally get your life-changing wealth. And I include myself in that group. I'm with the rest of you guys. Nothing special about me just because I'm running a YouTube channel. Like, I've got my own hopes and dreams just like the rest of you for what happens if XRP goes where we all think it's going here. And if it doesn't, then we're all going to be a bunch of sad pandas. I guess that's possible. But my conviction is what it is. Number go up this market cycle. My conviction has never been stronger. Here's a post from chart analyst Sistine Research. He wrote, and this is from this morning, he said, XRP has asymmetric upside here. Lots of flows not priced in. Okay, now, of course, he's talking in the short term, and fair enough. I'll take that. But when I read that, I thought something. And it's just, look, I've always believed, just in a general sense, ever since 2017 when I jumped into crypto and I first bought XRP, I always believed that XRP was an incredibly asymmetric bet compared to just about everything else because we were going against the grain. If we were right and the utility that we saw was going to continue to get further adoption and the crypto pie was going to get bigger, yeah, talk about an asymmetric bet. Risk reward off the charts. And so when I went heavy in XRP, I asked myself, because I put a lot of money into XRP. Subjectively to me, what is a lot of money? I put that into XRP. Over a span of years, I dollar cost averaged in, and then I capped it off in 2020 towards the end of the year with some larger individual XRP purchases. And, I just, before making those last few larger purchases, I asked myself if, and I also asked myself this too as I was continuing to dollar cost average in, but I would always think about this. I asked myself if losing the money I invested in XRP, would that be life-changing? If I lost it, what I put in XRP, would that be life-changing? Well, it'd be painful. I wouldn't like that. That'd be a disappointment, a stressor, I suppose. But would it be life-changing? Would it like wreck my life? The answer was no. The answer is no. That wouldn't wreck my life if I lost that. Even though I invested a ton of money into XRP, right? But I then asked myself if it would be life-changing if I ended up being right about XRP. And the answer to that was yes. Emphatically yes. And so when I started looking at it in that term, it became much, much easier. It's like, how could I? And also because my conviction was so high, even back then, I was like, how could I not do this? It was eating at me. I was like, if I don't do this, I'm a freaking chump because I believe. I need to act on what I believe. And I just believe it that much stronger now. And, with the way everything's played out from a legal perspective and in terms of actual adoption, real world fundamentals increasing, I obviously made the right bet. You guys obviously feel the same at this point if you've been around for a few years. Total validation, total vindication here. But even though that's the case, the best still, it is ahead. Here's a post from chart analyst Cryptolica from this morning. He shares, and he's been talking about this price range a lot, so this is just the latest update of this chart. But he's just highlighting here, but he believes XRP is going to be hitting up to $10 this market cycle. And so maybe that's too conservative, possible. It's possible. But even that would be wild, considering that XRP bottomed at 28 cents in June of 2022. So go to 28 cents to $10. That's a massive victory if we get up there. That would just be huge. Absolutely huge. Here's a post from chart analyst Greg Crypto. XRP chart here. He says, XRP ready to break out. Target $2.36. The first key to watch is $2.30, a confirmed support zone to solidify the bullish case. Once this is claimed, the next major target is $2.65, which could signal stronger momentum and a clear bullish sign. Okay, that's a level at $2.65 that I've seen multiple analysts cite. The blockchain backer talked precisely about that level. So we'll see if that gets hit. But yeah, and even if other answers, like for instance, here's chart analyst Cryptos, he doesn't say 265, he says 260. Okay, maybe we're splitting hairs here, but you can get a feel for like key levels here. He cites $2.30. Greg Crypto did also $2.60 and $2.94. Thin air above, So once you get through a few levels, you could quickly get back to that all-time high territory and finally enter price discovery. Now, of course, it is possible we could see a pullback in the short term. Here's a post this morning from chart analyst Zoom. He says, as mentioned, I want to see XRP grab liquidity from the $2 zone. It hasn't yet. It touched $2.07, but not $2. Don't get carried away. I'm cautious of this pump. And so that was at 11:05 a.m. this morning as XRP was moving up. And it's stalled a little bit like I cited at the outset of the video, moving sideways, $2.25 now. He is not the only one that is warned that there's a real good chance we get down to, he said $2 here. His previous post, he's talking $1.90 to $2. I keep seeing that. So we don't have to hit that, but we certainly could. Here's a post from Charting Guy. He says, and this is from this morning, 11:15 a.m. He says, XRP hitting resistance. Rejection here like we're starting to see now, and I think we go to $2.05. Final bear trap. And so he does think there's a reasonable chance also that we go to the downside. He thinks it's a trap for bears, though. And then we'll rocket out of there because there's so much liquidity. Crypto Insight UK was talking about that too. There's just so much liquidity down. There's so many people ready to purchase. And that's why there's high conviction from a lot of analysts that even if we get there, the reason we won't go lower than that $1.90 to $2 zone, and it would probably just be a wick to the downside, is because there's so many people ready to purchase if presented with that lower price. That's considered a bargain on XRP. $2 is a bargain on XRP now. Remember when we used to dream that it would maybe one day hit $2? Remember that? Like pretty much all of last year. Didn't have to wait long, did we? Not really. Well, I mean from that point. I mean, I've been waiting 7.5 years, but it is what it is. It's been worth it, absolutely. But yeah, it'll just be wild to see this finally conclude. It just couldn't be more obvious what is most probable, and nobody knows for sure, including myself. And fine, it's possible the world falls apart, we enter a bear market, there's World War III, blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. All that stuff might happen, but usually history rhymes with itself, and I'm going with that. Usually that's what happens. Liquidity increasing, people got to allocate funds. They're going to have a greater risk appetite. All the tariff crap is going to end. So that macro concern is going to be taken off the table. Like, what else do you want, folks? I hope it happens this summer. I hope it happens sooner than later. Many analysts think that's possible, but God forbid, we, like most years, we have to wait towards the end of the summer, getting into fall. Fine. Twist. Oh my God. Like, I can't. I need my Lambo now because I'm a whiny little bitch. No, I'm not. There are some people like that. I want my Lambo now, though. Shut up. Get your Lambo in 3 months. God damn it. Whiny little bitch. It's fine. Okay, you can have your Lambo on the moon, driving around on the moon in just a few months. Just like, sit tight. If the analysts indeed are correct. So we're going to find out together. But I don't see how it makes any sense to be concerned. It makes sense to be excited. And this is not my base state of being for most of the time I've been in crypto, because most of the time we're in crypto, we're not in a bull market. We're not on like the edge of our seat on the cusp of like that level of greatness, but we actually are now. So most of the time I have like an overwhelming like level of optimism and happiness about the direction things are going, and just total optimism. Mostly optimism anyway. And so I pretty much always have that. This, I'm telling you, it's excitement. It makes sense to actually have excitement, you know, because this is where we are in the cycle. So you guys tell me what you think, but I think it's just so obvious that it is very probable, though nothing certain, that the best is yet ahead. It's like right there. Just gotta wait like one more hot minute, you know? I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say are right. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.